Chapter 14. As soon as I read this letter, I went to the master and informed him that his sister had arrived at the Heights and sent me a letter expressing her sorrow for Mrs. Linton's condition and her deep desire to see him, with a request that he send her as soon as possible some sign of forgiveness through me. "Forgiveness," said Linton. "I have nothing to forgive her for, Ellen. If you wish, you can visit Wuthering Heights this afternoon and let her know that I'm not angry, just saddened by her absence. I doubt she'll find happiness. It's impossible for me to visit her. We are forever separated. If she truly wants to do something for me, she should convince the scoundrel she married to leave the country." "And you won't write her a short note, sir?" I asked pleadingly. "No," he replied. "There's no point. My interaction with Heathcliff's family will be as minimal as his with mine. It will not exist." Mr. Edgar's coldness weighed heavily on me, and as I travelled from the Grange, I racked my brain trying to infuse more warmth into his words when I relayed them, and to soften his refusal to send even a few comforting lines to Isabella. I imagined she had been waiting for me since morning. I saw her peering through the window as I approached the garden path, and I nodded to her, but she withdrew, as if fearful of being seen. I entered without knocking. The once lively house now felt unbearably bleak and dismal. I must admit, had I been in the young lady's position, I would have at least swept the hearth and dusted the tables. Yet she was already steeped in the pervasive aura of neglect that surrounded her. Her once lovely face appeared pale and indifferent, her hair unkempt, with some strands hanging limply and others haphazardly twisted around her head. It seemed she hadn't bothered with her attire since the previous evening. Hindley was absent. Mr. Heathcliff sat at a table, leafing through some papers in his pocketbook. But he stood up when I entered, greeted me warmly, and offered me a seat. He was the only presence there that seemed respectable, and I thought he had never appeared more distinguished. Circumstances had shifted so dramatically that, to a stranger, he would undoubtedly seem like a gentleman by birth and upbringing, while his wife appeared a complete little slattern. She approached eagerly to welcome me, extending her hand for the expected letter. I shook my head. She failed to grasp the hint and followed me to the sideboard, where I went to place my bonnet, whispering insistently for me to hand over whatever I had brought. Heathcliff understood her intentions and said, "If you have anything for Isabella, as I'm sure you do, Nellie, give it to her. There's no need for secrecy. We have no secrets between us." "Oh, I have nothing," I replied, deciding it was best to be straightforward. My master instructed me to tell his sister that she should not expect either a letter or visit from him at this time. He sends his regards, Mom, along with his hopes for your happiness and his forgiveness for the sorrow you've caused. However, he believes that from now on, his household and yours should cease all communication, as maintaining it would serve no purpose. Mrs. Heathcliff's lip trembled slightly as she returned to her seat by the window. Her husband positioned himself by the hearth near me and began asking questions about Catherine. I shared what I deemed appropriate about her illness, and through persistent questioning, he extracted most of the details about its cause. I held her accountable, as she deserved, for bringing it upon herself. and concluded by suggesting he follow Mr. Linton's lead and refrain from meddling with his family in the future, whether for good or ill. Mrs. Linton is just beginning to recover, I said. She'll never be the same, but her life has been spared. If you truly care for her, you'll avoid crossing her path again. In fact, you should leave this area entirely to ensure you don't regret it. I'll tell you that Catherine Linton is now as different from your old friend Catherine Earnshaw as that young lady is from me. Her appearance has changed significantly, and her character even more so. Anyone who must be her companion will only be able to maintain affection by remembering who she once was, through basic human decency and a sense of obligation. That is quite possible, Heathcliff remarked, forcing a calm demeanour. Quite possible that your master should have nothing but basic human decency and a sense of obligation to rely on. Do you really think I'll leave Catherine to the mercy of his so-called duty and humanity? Can you even begin to compare his feelings for Catherine to mine? Before you walk out of this house, I need you to promise me that you'll arrange a meeting with her. Agree or not, I will see her. What's your answer? Mr. Heathcliff, I responded, you mustn't. I won't be the means for it. Another confrontation between you and the master would destroy her completely. With your help, that can be avoided, he pressed on. And if there's any risk of that happening, if he causes her even a moment's more suffering, I believe I'd be justified in taking drastic measures. I wish you'd be honest enough to tell me if Catherine would suffer greatly from losing him. The fear that she would is what holds me back. That's where our feelings differ. If I were in his place and he in mine, even if I hated him with a bitterness that poisoned my life, I would never have harmed him. You might doubt me, but I swear I wouldn't have kept him away from her as long as she wanted him. The instant her affection waned, I would have ripped his heart out and drunk his blood. But until then, if you don't believe me, you don't know me. Until then, I would have endured endless torment before I laid a finger on him. And yet, I cut in, you have no qualms about completely destroying any chance of her full recovery by forcing yourself back into her thoughts now, when she's almost forgotten you, and dragging her into a fresh storm of chaos and pain. Do you think she's nearly forgotten me? He asked. Oh, Nellie, you know she hasn't. You know as well as I do that for every thought she gives to Linton, she gives 1,000 to me. During a particularly miserable time in my life, I entertained such a notion. It tormented me when I returned to the neighborhood last summer. But only her own words could make me consider that dreadful idea again. If that were true, Linton would mean nothing, nor Hindley, nor all the dreams I've ever had. My future would be summed up in 2 words: death and hell. Life without her would be hell. Yet I was a fool to think, even for a moment, that she valued Edgar Linton's affection more than mine. Even if he loved with every ounce of his feeble being, he couldn't love as much in 80 years as I could in a single day. And Catherine's heart is as deep as mine. You might as well try to fit the sea into a horse trough as expect her entire affection to be claimed by him. Nonsense. He is barely more dear to her than her dog or her horse. He simply doesn't possess what it takes to be loved like I am. How could she love in him what he lacks? Catherine and Edgar are as fond of each other as any two people can be, Isabella exclaimed with sudden fervour. No one has the right to speak like that, and I won't sit by while my brother is belittled. Your brother seems quite fond of you, doesn't he? Heathcliff remarked with a sneer. He's quick to cast you out into the world. He doesn't know what I'm going through, she replied. I haven't told him. So you've told him something, then? You've written to him? I wrote to say I was married. You saw the note. And nothing since? No. Our young lady doesn't look well since her change in circumstances, I observed. Someone's affection is lacking here, clearly. I have my suspicions as to whose, but perhaps I shouldn't voice them. I'd say it's her own, Heathcliff retorted. She's turning into a mere slattern. She's grown tired of trying to please me remarkably fast. You wouldn't believe it, but the very day after our wedding, she was crying to go back home. Still, she'll fit in here all the better for not being too particular. And I'll make sure she doesn't embarrass me by wandering off. Well, sir, I replied, I hope you'll remember that Mrs. Heathcliff is used to being cared for and attended to. She was raised like an only daughter, with everyone eager to serve her. You must allow her a maid to keep things in order around her, and you must treat her kindly. Whatever you may think of Mr. Edgar, you can't deny she has the capacity for deep attachments. Otherwise, she wouldn't have left behind the elegance, comfort, and friends of her former life to settle contentedly in this wilderness with you. She left them under an illusion, he replied, imagining me as some romantic hero and expecting endless indulgence from my supposed chivalry. It's hard for me to see her as a rational being. So stubbornly has she clung to this fantasy of my character, acting on the false impressions she held. But at last, I think she's beginning to understand me. I no longer see those silly smiles and expressions that irritated me at first, nor her inability to grasp that I was serious when I shared my opinion of her infatuation and herself. It was a remarkable feat of insight for her to realize I didn't love her. At one point, I thought no lesson could teach her that, and yet it's poorly learned. For this morning, she declared, as if it were shocking news, that I had actually succeeded in making her hate me. A true Herculean tahe, I assure you. If it's accomplished, I have reason to be grateful. Can I trust your word, Isabella? Are you sure you hate me? If I'd leave you alone for half a day, won't you come back to me, sighing and trying to win me over again? I'm sure she'd prefer if I acted all tender in front of you. It hurts her pride to have the truth laid bare, but I don't care. Who knows that the passion was entirely one-sided? I never lied to her about it. She can't accuse me of any false gentleness. The first thing she saw me do after leaving the Grange was to hang her little dog. And when she begged for its life, my first words were a wish that I could hang every creature connected to her, except one. Perhaps she thought she was the exception, but no amount of cruelty repulsed her. I suppose she has a natural admiration for it, as long as her precious self is safe from harm. Isn't it the height of absurdity, of true idiocy, for that pitiful, slavish, small-minded creature to imagine I could love her? Tell your master, Nellie, that I've never encountered anything as abject as she is. She even tarnishes the Linton name, and sometimes I've held back, simply because I couldn't think of new ways to test what she could endure. And yet, she still crawls back, shamefully cringing. But also tell him to rest his brotherly and authoritative heart. I stay strictly within the bounds of the law. I've avoided, up to now, giving her any reason to claim a separation. And what's more, she wouldn't thank anyone for splitting us apart. If she wanted to leave, she could. The nuisance of her presence outweighs any pleasure I might get from tormenting her. Mr. Heathcliff, I said, this sounds like the ravings of a madman. Your wife probably thinks you've lost your mind, and that's why she's put up with you until now. But since you're telling her she can leave, she'll likely take you up on that offer. Surely, Mom, you're not so enchanted as to stay with him willingly. Be careful, Ellen, Isabella replied, her eyes flashing with anger. There was no mistaking the success of her husband's efforts to make himself loathed. Don't believe a word he says. He's a deceitful demon, a monster, not a man. I've been told I could leave him before, and I've tried, but I don't dare to try again. Just promise me, Ellen, you won't breathe a word of his vile talk to my brother or Catherine. Whatever he claims, he wants to drive Edgar to madness. He says he married me just to gain power over him, but he won't get it. I'd rather die first. I only wish, I pray, that he loses his wicked caution and kills me. The only comfort I can imagine is dying or seeing him dead. That's enough for now, Heathcliff said. If you're called to testify in court, remember her words, Nellie, and take a good look at her face. She's almost at the point that would satisfy me. No, Isabella, you're not capable of being your own guardian right now. As your legal protector, I must keep you in my custody, no matter how unpleasant that duty may be. Go upstairs. I need to speak with Ellen Dean privately. That's not the way. Upstairs, I said. This is the way. Upstairs, child. He grabbed her and pushed her out of the room, then returned, muttering, I have no pity. I have no pity. The more they squirm, the more I want to crush them. It's like moral teething. I grind harder as the pain increases. Do you even know what pity means? I asked, quickly putting on my bonnet. Have you ever felt it in your life? Put that down, he interrupted, noticing my intent to leave. You're not going anywhere yet. Come here, Nellie. I need you to either help me willingly or be compelled to assist me in my resolve to see Catherine, and I need to do it immediately. I promise I mean no harm. I have no intention of causing any trouble or provoking Mr. Linton. I just want to hear from Catherine herself about how she's doing, why she's been unwell, and if there's anything I can do to help her. Last night, I spent 6 hours in the Grange garden, and I'll be back tonight. I'll keep returning every night and every day until I find a way to get inside. If Edgar Linton confronts me, I won't hesitate to knock him down and make sure he stays out of my way while I'm there. If his servants try to stop me, I'll scare them off with these pistols. But wouldn't it be better to avoid any confrontation with them or their master? You could make that happen so easily. I'd let you know when I'm coming, and you could let me in quietly once she's alone, then keep watch until I leave with your conscience clear. You'd be preventing any trouble. I refused to play such a deceitful role in my employer's home, and I pointed out the cruelty and selfishness of disturbing Mrs. Linton's peace just for his own satisfaction. Even the smallest incident startles her terribly, I said. She's all nerves, and I'm certain she couldn't handle the shock. Don't persist, sir. Otherwise, I'll have to inform my master of your intentions, and he'll take steps to protect his home and everyone in it from such unwelcome intrusions. In that case, I'll take steps to deal with you, woman, Heathcliff retorted. You won't leave Wuthering Heights until tomorrow morning. It's absurd to claim that Catherine can't stand the sight of me. And as for surprising her, that's not my aim. You need to prepare her. I got ask if I may visit. You say she never speaks my name, and that no one mentions me to her. To whom would she speak of me if I'm a forbidden subject in the house? She believes you're all spies for her husband. Oh, I'm sure she's in torment among you. Her silence tells me as much about her feelings as anything else. You say she's often restless and anxious. Does that suggest peace of mind? You talk about her mental state being unsettled. How could it be otherwise in her dreadful isolation, and that insipid, trivial man attending to her out of duty and humanity, out of pity and charity? He might as well try to grow an oak in a flower pot and expect it to flourish, as think he can restore her vitality with his shallow concerns. Let's settle this now. Will you stay here? And should I fight my way to Catherine past Linton and his servant? Or will you continue to be my ally, as you have been, and do what I ask? Decide, because there's no point in me lingering another minute if you insist on being so stubbornly unkind. Well, Mr. Lockwood, I argued, complained, and flatly refused him dozens of times. But in the end, he wore me down. I agreed to deliver a letter from him to my mistress, and if she consented, I promised to inform him of Linton's next absence, so he could come and find his way in. I wouldn't be there, and my fellow servants would also be out of the way. Was it right, or wrong? I fear it was wrong. Though perhaps necessary, I thought I was preventing another outburst by complying. And I also believed it might trigger a positive change in Catherine's mental state. Then I recalled Mr. Edgar's stern warning about carrying tales, and I tried to ease my conscience by repeatedly assuring myself that this breach of trust, if it deserved such a harsh label, would be the last. Nonetheless, my journey home was far more somber than my journey there, and I had many doubts before I could bring myself to place the letter in Mrs. Linton's hand. But here comes Kenneth. I'll go down and let him know how much better you are. My history is what we call dree, and it will serve to pass another morning. Dree and dreary, I mused as the kind woman went down to greet the doctor. It's not exactly the sort of tale I would have chosen for entertainment, but no matter. I'll draw some beneficial lessons from Mrs. Dean's bitter stories, and first I must be wary of the lure hidden in Catherine Heathcliff's striking eyes. I'd find myself in quite a predicament if I let my heart fall for that young woman, only to discover she's a replica of her mother.